Good evening and welcome to Standards of Geekness, episode 4. Sorry for the mislabeling, guys. It's a lot more work to reset that back up. But how you been doing, bud?
It's been a rough week. I've been sick, man. I'm just
Oh, that's
getting back on my feet. I didn't get a chance to watch AEW this week because I was all out of it. But from what I hear, I didn't miss much. How are you doing?
uh, I mean, it was better than Dax Harwood and Jericho's match. That's for fucking sure. But that's really, really low bar.
That's a really low bar. That's WCW era, like Vince Russo shit right there.
I don't even think Vince Russo could book that fucking dumpster fire.
Hey, you do not besmirch the bad name of Vince Russo, okay? Like Vince Russo,
As much as I don't like
Judy
Jim
Bagwell.
Cornette,
Judy Bagwell on a pole, brother. Judy
as much as
Bagwell
I
on a
don't
pole.
like Jim Cornette, fuck Vince Russo. You heard it here, bro. All right, well, let's jump right into it. We have some news to cover, kind of big news. NXT and TNA have announced a partnership, a multi-year deal that will see both companies, WWE and TNA, work together. We've seen this kind of commonly, before throughout the pandemic era, and since AEW's, been around. We had TNA and AEW, GCW, and TNA. There's been a lot more cooperative stuff, but we've never really seen an official thing from WWE, at least in our lifetimes that we can really recall. I mean, there was some New Japan stuff in the '90s that WCW did and WWE did, but
Some early ECW stuff.
yeah, it was
Or when Raw was
still
pretty
under the
young.
WWE umbrella, or being paid by WWE in the case of ECW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
WWF back at that point was so old.
yeah,
But yeah, the one thing that I keep thinking about with this is about Nick Nemeth or Dolph Ziggler, whichever name you want to go by. I think it's really interesting. Like that's one of those guys that hasn't done any cross between the two companies yet. He's a really
yeah,
high
but
profile name.
he's clearly still in touch with what's going on there because he's on Busted Open every Thursday talking about it outside of getting distracted like an ADHD kid. I should know by Motley Crue stuff with Dave LaGreca. But, Busted Open's an interesting place because there's times where they have really great insights to the business, and then there's, clearly man yelling at cloud moments. But yeah, I
Never.
just, I mean, hell, you and I have our old man yelling at cloud moments. Hell, we've had some this week. What?
Good chance we'll
Uh,
have some in this episode.
probably. Yeah, Triple H. Seeing that tweet from Triple H, I was just like, wow. To think like a year or two ago, this was a pipe dream. Like to see it
I
actually
mean,
promoted by Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and then John Cena sharing the TNA logo on his Instagram, which everybody who knows John Cena, he doesn't actually. There's no text or context to it. He just shares pictures. Um, yeah, I mean,
I think what's so crazy is that I think we're all still getting, we're all still getting over the Vince McMahon era of professional wrestling, where
yes,
Vince had such strict rules. I mean, when you watch Raw or SmackDown and you hear someone go, "Oh, yeah, they're heading to the hospital," instead of a local medical facility, it's like mind blowing, you know?
yeah. It was interesting to hear the logic behind one of the writers explained why Vince chose to start saying local medical facility instead of hospital. Apparently, they had a lot of fans showing up at the local hospital because it was easy to figure out. But by saying local medical facility, there were options to reduce the ability of fans showing up. So, from that
We're
perspective,
sending
I
the
understand.
wrestler down to the vet, and they're gonna get fixed up and move back to
Yeah,
the arena in no time.
I understand the logic. It was poorly executed, but I understand the logic. And not all news was good news this week. It is being allegedly reported that Britt Baker is on the outs with AEW management. There's clearly a reason we haven't seen her being booked on AEW TV. Similar to Ray Phoenix, we don't know if it's an injury. We don't know if it's there's a lot of rumors going around. Difficult to be worked with is the main point we've seen in a lot of articles and a lot of podcasts out there. We can't speak to the validity of that, so it's quite interesting to hear and listen to what's going on. I honestly think Britt Baker in TNA and WWE just makes the most logical sense. And once her contract's up, we'll probably see her in one of those two places.
So just gonna throw out some conspiracy for you here, man. I was Britt Baker, and I was in a relationship with someone who there was a good chance could be appearing in the Royal Rumble per se. Maybe I'd be looking to get out of my contract too.
Well, Adam Cole's in AEW. Are they still together? Because last I knew that it was being reported they weren't. And he's got a long-term AEW deal, so.
Oh, I heard rumblings that she had never mind. We'll get into it off air. It's not confirmed. I don't want to.
Yeah, you threw me for a loop there, so.
It's all good.
Oh God. Daniel's actually early to party. He's created a new persona called the Wrestling Mark because he couldn't do more dick riding. He's found a way to do more. Sorry, dunking on Daniel is a pastime. It's too easy. He sets it up way too well. Anyways,
right.
The Raw recap. So Monday Night Raw was a lot better this week than the previous week. In my opinion, there was a lot more action, a lot more storylines being interwoven. Kind of the ramping up into the Royal Rumble season as we head into Indy here in a few weeks for the Royal Rumble. And I gotta say, the amount of declarations for the Royal Rumble we've seen thus far alone. I mean, we've got CM Punk declaring on Raw, John Cena on SmackDown, Roman Reigns on SmackDown, Rey Mysterio this last week on SmackDown declared. We've got Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre now declared. The star power in this Royal Rumble, this might actually be the best Royal Rumble we have had. Like, in terms of athleticism, in terms of number of people that are over, in terms of like star power. I mean, the megastars are obviously, Cena, Punk, and Reigns, but like, this might be the least predictable Royal Rumble we've had in quite some time.
It really reminds me a lot of like the Attitude Era in Royal Rumbles, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. All the star power combined, and it wasn't. And what I really like about where WWE is at right now is it's not just the star power at the top of the card, but you have a really entertaining undercard too, which was what I thought was what actually carried a lot of the Attitude Era. It's not just Stone Cold and The Rock out there for 2 hours straight. You had Val Venus, you had The Godfather, you had Goldust, you had Too Cool, you had the Hardys, you had Edge and Christian.
Yeah, so like, and it's interesting because there's kind of a difference though, because I've gone back and I've recently been rewatching a lot of the Attitude Era stuff just because kind of not use rose-colored glasses when analyzing it. Quality matches in today's age, even in the undercard and midcard, are much better than they were back then. Like, the star power was a lot more spread out back then. Obviously the mega stars like you said, Austin and Rock, they weren't out there for 2 hours. They'd start the show and then they'd end the show. They were what people paid to see, but the rest of them all kind of got drawn in by that. And I think it was kind of like a coattails effect, not in a negative way, but like, they got the rub of the stars. And whereas nowadays the match quality is so much better that
Are there?
Just heard a weird noise. Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, the way that they've done this too is they've drawn back around to Drew McIntyre and CM Punk a little bit. Seth Rollins and CM Punk obviously being in a feud. I gotta say, I'm really excited to see where this goes.
No, I like that they're trying to weave together these fragments of story. I just kind of feel like there's a part of this that doesn't feel as coherent as the storytelling has been throughout the last 6 months, and I can't help but think that a lot of that has to do with The Rock and just the giant monkey wrench that he threw into everything.
Yeah, I definitely think that they've had a lot of penciling in, erasing, penciling in. I mean, you and I have gone through this where you're trying to book something and then some dumbass says something stupid and gets fired, or some dumbass does something stupid and gets themselves injured. You have to rework everything. Like we've all been in that position professionally or and in a wrestling sense too. It's you can never really account for those X factors, but like it's hanging out there like a dark stormy cloud.
I think the thing about this one that makes it so egregious is just that it, it's such an outside X factor that didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not going to be a part of this, that's fine. Like, it would have been absolutely fine with The Rock not being in any match at WrestleMania at all. We can do that, but could you not just like fuck up the story that's being told for the last year?
Yeah, it's kind of like almost like a hostage, situation in a sense where like you kind of have to hold your storyline plans up at gunpoint to like is he or isn't he? And it's like, well, eventually you have to shit or get off the pot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sharing any of these comments, Daniel, because they're all stupid, and you should feel bad for them. I'm sorry.
Do
I'm
better.
not sugarcoating
Do, fuck,
it.
do fucking better.
Yep.
I said it.
Spoilers.
I think a definite highlight for Raw this last week, and we got to talk about it, is Penta. I think it was a
Yeah.
great choice to put him up against. Uh, um, oh god damn, names are falling out of my head now, man.
Chad Gable.
Chad Gable, thank you. All I could think was Kurt Angle,
I
and
mean,
there was a
tomato,
definite reason
potato.
for that. It was definitely well. I think it was definitely made to be a callback to the Rey Mysterio Kurt Angle match from SummerSlam
Yep.
back in
That was
2002, I believe.
that was the same vibe I
Um,
got too.
yeah,
It might have been
right
2002.
down to there was a straight "You suck" chant for Gable on his way to the ring. The music, it very is that new music for Gable?
No, the American made theme is basically like a Kurt Angle remix made by Def Rebel. When I went to the Raw in Grand Rapids here in Michigan, it was definitely music would allow the "You suck" chants very very well, and it was very very nice. There was also some Jared
Okay,
Goff to it too, which was kind of weird.
all right. Maybe it's just not as it hasn't been as audible in the past. It was a lot more his music was a lot easier for me to hear this time around. Maybe that's a change with Netflix. Also, with Netflix, really great to see that they're still using the wide sweeping camera shots. Keep
Yeah, gives it
that big stadium feel.
yeah, it's like a big moment, a big sporting event kind of feel to it. Where like it doesn't seem like a pay per view. It seems like it should be a pay per view thing, but like it's made to feel like the show's bigger and more in enveloping of the place as well in the audience. As far as the match, I mean, the match was a certified banger. Um, Commentary put Penta over really really well. The Mexican Destroyer I thought was an interesting twist by Pat McAfee. Um,
How do you feel about the fact that Gable kicked out of that?
so
So
I'm
I had
really
really mixed feelings with the way they've been putting over the package pile driver with Kevin
that's what I was going
Owens.
to. So my feelings are you're selling the package pile driver as this like destroyer move. Like you want we've seen more destructive moves from Kevin Owens. The Steamalizer back in ROH and GCW. That was way more brutal, but like the package pile driver is basically being sold kind of like the stunner was back with Austin in a way where people aren't kicking out of it. Like once it's done, you're on the shelf. It's put Orton on the shelf for months at this point. They put Cody on the shelf for a couple weeks.
A full month to be medically cleared.
Yeah, the Mexican destroyer, the Canadian destroyer, whatever you want to call it, it looks like a more devastating move. And it's part of my problem I had with AEW is it made the Canadian destroyer far less special. It was a setup move. And I'm okay if that's done once in a while. I'm really hoping that as they go about with this, they don't let people kick out of it as much. I think it makes the move less special, and I think it undermines the credibility of using the move by a talent like Penta. That said, post-match was actually the far more interesting thing. So I didn't get to watch Raw live initially. Good thing it's on Netflix now, so I was able to rewatch it later. That promo segment, it definitely seemed like under the old regime, under Vince, that would have been way over on time. Normally would have gotten heat from the boys, maybe heat from Vince, the producers. Being on Netflix kind of changes that narrative a little bit, though, where they're not time limited. They can kind of go as long or as short as they want. So maybe that's why they were trying to take a little advantage of that. And it kind of let Penta show a little bit more personality than he really has been able to show to the American audience here in the U.S.
The thing is that was weird is the next day there was reporting coming out saying he did have heat for going over on time, and I'm confused about this. I know a lot of wrestling news outlets were also confused about this. Like I heard the same question coming from Wrestle Talk, from What Culture, from Cultaholic. Why is it an issue? Why is time an issue? Why is time being brought up as an issue when we know it's no longer an issue? And it's kind of weird because there shouldn't be any heat on him, but it was being reported that there was. And if anything, I would have thought that it would have been over, the Destroyer. I got some late breaking news. Apparently, President Trump has just signed an executive order. It's now an American destroyer. So, way to go. Way to go.
Destroyer, the destroyer of ghosts.
It's a more tremendous destroyer than any destroyer in the past.
We'll get to TNA in a little bit, Daniel, okay? Because I don't want angry little midgets in my angry people in my DMs again on Instagram.
Just keep saying his name. Come up here.
No, not him. Yeah, so where were we? So yeah, we overall Penta's debut, they kind of spoiled it with the WWE shop like we talked about last week. Kind of sucks. But overall I was pretty happy with the promo segment in the match. Let's talk about Kaiser and Sheamus. So this feud's been kind of going on for a minute. On one hand, I enjoyed the match. On the other hand, it's all to set up a feud with Braun Breaker for the IC title. It has to be Sheamus at this point that wins that title off of him eventually. Like, I'm guessing at Mania. It has to be at this point.
You would think. Sheamus kind of feels like he is getting up there in years. That he's, looking for, maybe a good, a good story or two to go out on. I don't know how much longer.
Well, he
Sheamus
just signed a new 5-year deal a few weeks ago.
That doesn't mean that 5-year deal is in-ring competitive.
True. I just think there has to be a way to end his career in a way that you know, Sheamus has been a pretty unique talent. Um, I don't think it would do harm to have him win the IC title and then vacate it and retire. I don't think it would harm him. I think honestly it would be a breath of fresh air because you get to kill two birds with one stone. You get to help him become a Grand Slam champion in his waning days, and you get to kind of freshly restart with the division how you want. My only point of contention is they just did the women's tournament for the women's IC title. I don't see that happening because of that. Because they're not. Triple H is very big on not repeating what he's doing.
The thing about Sheamus is just like, and I know the thing what you're saying about the 5-year deal. 5 years really isn't that long.
I guess it's true.
When you're
in its 50s
when
by
you're
the
really
end of
thinking about it. I'm saying like this could be the Twilight run, the beginning of the Twilight run, a 5-year Twilight run.
Could be
very legitimately. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to down on Sheamus. Like he's had some absolute bangers with Gunther. Like that was like what, a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
they were tearing it up.
Yeah, like he has good match quality. The brawler style works. It's just there's not a lot left that he hasn't already done.
And that's the issue. I think that there's a couple guys coming up from NXT, like almost. Sorry, man, I'm all over the place tonight. You can tell I'm out of it.
It's okay.
Ubafemi is who I'm meaning. That's a match I want to see.
Yeah, no, I would like to see that. Honestly, I'd like to see Oba and Braun Breaker go at it.
That'd be a little more interesting because Braun's a bit shorter. You know what I mean? Whereas Sheamus has a bit more height. So even though Obafemi is still like maybe a foot taller than Sheamus, he's a big boy. Sheamus is still going to be that, he has that brawler style. Trick Williams, I actually think, is a good opponent for Sheamus. Again, both larger guys. Trick can move a bit more than Sheamus can, but Sheamus has proven that his style can work with a wide variety of styles. He's had great matches with little guys. I think his tag team work with Cesaro was actually top notch. If there's one thing I could go back to with him, it would actually be the bar. I loved the bar.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. I mean, maybe that means a small run in AEW with Claudio.
If that means the end of the Stupidity Society, then I am cool with it.
So yeah, Jey Uso versus Gunther is going to be the main event for Saturday night's main event. This next one coming up. Some quality promo segments between these two. I don't think Jay's quite there in terms of a believable. His offensive style he's a babyface that can take a pound.
He's not a. See, the thing is like back when he faced Roman at SummerSlam for the title,
it made more
there
sense.
was the emotional component behind it with the story and everything, and the number of times they faced each other, it had almost a blow-off match feel, which gave you the feeling like, okay, maybe he could win this because of all those exterior reasons. He doesn't have those with Gunther. Like, at the end of the day,
they're kind of trying to draw back on that, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not in a position yet where I feel like Jey Uso is the guy. Don't get me wrong, crowd reaction's insane. He's one of the most over guys in the company, one of the biggest merch sellers. He's got 3 out of the 4 big X factors. It's that 4th factor. He's not the guy.
Well, and we're gonna talk more tonight. When we get into our topic of the night, the Rumble, and I'll just go ahead and give you a little, a spoiler. my pick to be the Iron Man guy for this Rumble is Jey Uso.
Yeah, I can
I,
definitely,
I I think
I can
he's the
definitely
guy
see that.
that you put in there and have him go 40 minutes.
See, I've got Dominic Mysterio actually being my Iron Man.
Interesting.
Chicken shit heel, just kind of like sneaking his way through half the match. Everybody
I
forgets he's
mean,
there.
I think both of those are great.
Yeah,
Dominic
they're great.
Mysterio winning back-to-back Heel of the Year awards, so good for him.
Dude is so over, it's not even funny. But yeah, I just right now there's very few people in the company that I think can take the belt off of Gunther. I'm still not super into this Gunther run. It feels like he has lost a step since losing that Intercontinental Championship a while back.
I will say that I think it was a misstep to have him lose it to Sami Zayn. Um, I think it would have been a much better way to go to have Gunther lose the Intercontinental title in like a triple threat or a situation where he wasn't pinned.
Yeah,
Ultimately, I think that's the
if
thing
if you
is you
insist
broke some of the
upon
mystique when he got pinned.
if you insist upon pinning him, it's got to be somebody that's at that World Heavyweight Championship level. Have him get pinned by a Roman Reigns or a Cody Rhodes or a John Cena, Randy Orton, like someone at that level that's been there could be the guy. There's no shame in losing to them. There's no shame in losing to Sami Zayn. I think they built that feud good and well. I just don't think they did anything to capitalize for Sami. I don't think they did anything to capitalize for Gunther afterwards. Because if you look at it, Gunther, he won the title shortly after Mania, and what was it? Priest had it at SummerSlam till SummerSlam, and
Mhm.
then so yes, Gunther won it at SummerSlam.
I think it's also a rough position because in order to make like I can give me a week and I can make Jey Uso look like a competitor. Let him get a pin on Gunther in a tag team match
See,
and then a non-title match and all of a sudden he's a competitor. The problem with doing that though is it continues to further break that mystique of Gunther.
mm-hmm.
And that's what he's already lost a bit of. The Undertaker was never quite the same at WrestleMania after he lost to Brock Lesnar.
Exactly, and I think they've really kind of screwed themselves there because they didn't build anybody up after that. Because Sammy won that Intercontinental Championship and then went back to the Bloodline, which they're still doing good there. It's just all that mystique, the equity in that mystique is gone.
Well, I think the Bloodline story right now is at a real misstep too. With I don't think the way that they handled things with Solo on SmackDown
So
was good.
yeah, I was a little
Well,
confused
I
about
mean, we're
that.
not there yet. I'm
Not there
jumping
yet.
ahead.
We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you. It was a little weird. We got Lyra Valkyrie versus Dakota Kai. Lyra picking up the W, becoming the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion. Makes sense. It was a good match.
Congratulations.
I genuinely at this point feel terrible for Dakota Kai though. She's had 7 or 8 championship opportunities in WWE in her time there, and she hasn't won a single one. And she's gotten close several times. She's been in the position to do it, and I'm at the point where I just don't think it's believable to have her in that scene anymore. I think it was a misstep to not turn her heel. If you're gonna have her lose here, have her snap, have her turn heel, continue the feud.
So Dakota Kai is one of the women in WWE who I think would be like. I think she's well suited for the women's tag team division in WWE.
Yeah, but they keep putting her in a
Um,
position where, as a singles competitor in a lot of these matches, she just keeps eating the L. And it's like we talked about. If somebody wins all the time, what is the old saying? Perception is reality. Well, if someone's
Mhm.
winning all the time, they're going to be perceived as a winner. If someone's losing all the time, they're going to be perceived as a loser.
I think the thing with Dakota Kai is like you put her out there on her own, and her personality does like I'm not and I don't want this to come out wrong. I'm not trying to say that she doesn't have personality, she doesn't have charisma. I just don't think it shines when she's by herself. When you see the backstage segments with her and she's interacting with other superstars, you see more of her personality coming out. She has more opportunity. She has good facial expressions. I think you could do a lot more with, and that's why I'm saying I think you can do a lot more with her in a tag team environment just by way of her having a regular partner, go back and forth, and I think you could make a champion out of her.
Yeah.
And it becomes more believable too because it's in a environment and in a where you haven't already established her as essentially a jobber.
Yeah. And here at this point, it's kind of a perennial gatekeeper, the Ziggler.
Yeah,
Um,
always got to have your Ziggler.
so something that didn't set quite well with me, and they set it up throughout the show. Sami Zayn beat Miz in what was basically a squash match. I wasn't cool with it, mostly because like the Miz is a multi-time world champion, something Sammy's never done outside NXT. You know, it was basically an enhancement match for all intents and purposes, and to me, it just feels like
That
a waste in
I
equity
think
again.
that well, I think that more has to do with I think the idea of it is that the Miz is so messed up because of everything that's going on with Karrion Cross that like he can't get his head in the game. I think that's the story they're trying to tell there,
They're doing a bad job.
and that's the thing, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Is they're not do I don't so like this is where like I think it's important to to make sure your commentary team is really getting over the the story that you're trying to tell in the ring, and I don't think that was done with this because it almost came across. I wondered if this was where they tried to make up time with Penta. If Penta went over on time with them, and this is where they tried to
So
make
you're
up
saying that
some of
they
that.
trimmed time here?
It's possible.
I mean, I could see
I
that.
mean, we've heard a lot about the WrestleMania match between Jimmy and Jey Uso, where they had like 5 minutes cut off of their match right before they went out,
I actually hadn't heard.
and oh yeah, they had like about 5 minutes cut off of their match right before they went out with like zero time to plan, and then lo and behold, when with the reviews come in, that is the one match that's like kind of given a lower rank than it was expected to have.
Well, that match was really short.
And yeah,
It was
but it
nice.
shouldn't have been. But it shouldn't have been. And if you add another 5 minutes of drama and build up to that, and it's not just super kick after super kick, there's more time in between those super kicks. Maybe it's not as egregious.
Well, that's also, I think, to kind of circle back to the Gunther Jey Uso thing. Like I said, I'm kind of tired of seeing super kicks being used as a finisher. It's super kick into 5-star frog splash. Vary your offense up a little bit. Come up with a new finisher. Do something. Fucking use a Samoan drop as a finisher. So obviously the spikes out of the equation, but like you guys are basically using the same moves, Jimmy and Jay. Okay,
Yeah,
that worked when you're a tag
and
team. It doesn't.
I do think that is a difficulty, and I think that it's something that like there was always like that conversation of which one are you that they had. They've broken away from that now. It's everybody can tell the difference between Jimmy and Jay now.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. Like you think about the Hardy Boys, and yes, Jeff would do the twist of fate, but that wasn't his finish.
Swanton
Jeff's
bomb.
finish was the Swanton. Matt's finish was the twist of fate, and it always kind of gave the impression that like maybe Matt was better at giving the twist of fate than Jeff.
Yeah, and it separated them in a way that still brought uniqueness to them and believability. So we had Mommy come out for a promo segment, which I'm really glad that they've moved on from the Liv Morgan Rhea Ripley feud. We did see a backstage segment where it seemed like Dom was kind of in trouble with Liv.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you tried to give Rhea a hug and then got met with a riptides. What do you expect? But
Which didn't make any goddamn sense. I'm sorry, I just gotta say, like that was one of the worst. Like, I recognize that was a match that was meant for WrestleMania, and I'm sure that was a moment that was meant to be done on the WrestleMania stage. It just made no goddamn sense.
yeah,
You know what I mean? The way that it's all been built up, then for him to immediately do that, it was just like,
I mean, it makes him look like a sucker, like a sucker, and I don't know, like I'm cool with him eating the riptide. I think we've all been waiting for that for a while there.
if he would have been checking on Liv and turned around, and then Rhea's right there looking at him, and he goes, "I'm so like kind of giving a minute, and oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so happy for you. Look, you won. Bygones are bygones. We can be friends again. Something like that."
Yeah.
Then I'm down with it. But the whole like, let's get back together now.
Who's my mommy? Like that's. I'm pretty sure that's what he mouthed, and I don't know. I'm really glad that that's over with. We had Nia Jax interrupt and Bailey also interrupting. I really don't think anybody wants to see Nia versus Rhea 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. We saw a brief feud with them before.
I'm okay with it because I know that it's just filler.
Yeah, but
just being real with it. It's no different to have Rhea versus Nia than it is to have Gunther versus Jay. It's not like Nia's gonna dethrone Rhea leading up to WrestleMania. Like, I think we all know what we're expecting for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean it's slightly different though because like Nia's been at that world champ level, whereas Jay hasn't.
And that's true, but all that means is that Rhea has an opponent at the Rumble.
I think I'd much rather see Bailey versus Rhea though. Have Bailey turn heel and become the Karen again and like that gimmick was over. I think it would be a perfect foil to Rhea Ripley, which I do agree sometimes they do book her a little too strong, kind of China-esque. She rumbles with the guys sometimes. Same with Nia, which I'm cool with that. I just think that you can't have an entire division squashed by one person. Otherwise, you end up with Brock Lesnar 2.0. And
like the big sweaty man,
well, I'm the big sweaty man.
Vincent Kennedy likes the big sweaty women. Those the big sweaty women. He gets Stephanie McMahon in the gym. He was on China before that. I like big sweaty women.
He likes big sweaty women too. My God.
My God.
Yeah, so and then we had Damian Priest versus Finn Balor in a street fight. Sorry. This match actually was really, really good. I'm really glad that it's over with now, and then we can move on from Judgment Day versus Priest. The brutality involved was really interesting. It was interesting to see the babyface attack someone during the stretcher segment. Kind of made me think back to Taker doing it to Austin. I think it was 2004, 2005. When no, it was earlier than that. When Austin and Triple H were tag teaming before Triple H got injured.
That would have been
2003?
2001. Yeah, it would have been 2001 two-man
Really,
partnership.
sense of time during then is a little different. But when he attacked them, Austin in the ambulance and started brawling with Triple H, Vince McMahon, and all them out in the parking lot, like it gave me those vibes. And honestly, they killed it. I'm not sure what they're gonna do with Judgment Day. So far, I think at this point, I think they need to turn on Finn.
So the thing with Finn Balor is he's been. Man, that guy needs to win a world championship. He never wins.
Well,
He never wins anything big. I was actually really kind of irritated they did this match on Raw, to be honest, because
like
they built the.
In my opinion, at the Rumble.
Yeah. They built this up for the last 6 months. Why not?
Yeah, I think it was just like they went based on whatever was the most popular. Maybe that one wasn't the most popular amongst fans or internal polls, but yeah, I
I'm
think
going to give that a fail.
Finn. I think he needs to rebuild back up, and I think win the world title eventually. I honestly, what I would like to do is I'd like to have Dom overtake the group, them turn on Finn. Finn hits rock bottom, loses out to Dom and them on the crash out, and then slowly builds himself back up. And then when Dom becomes a world champion, Finn beats Dom to become world champion.
I mean, I'm almost at the point where you just send Finn over to SmackDown and have him start over.
Could work. I mean, part of the problem and is right now WWE's efforts are all on Raw. Like SmackDown feels like Raw overflow.
Yeah, so send Finn over to SmackDown because at least he's a top quality star. Like legit, I'd be down for watching a Cody Rhodes Finn Balor world title program.
That'd be great. Is Cody staying on SmackDown now?
Who knows?
Because he's
Who knows?
Like
who knows?
I don't know. To me, it just feels like they're doing SmackDown kind of a disservice, and kind of just. I guess we'll get right into SmackDown here. I mean, I liked the show opening up the way it did. With Rey Mysterio and Kevin Owens.
Kevin Owens continues to be the best part of SmackDown. By the way, like I don't give a damn what any like. I love Kevin Owens.
Him and Drew McIntyre.
I would tune into SmackDown just to see what shirt Kevin Owens is wearing this week.
The Canadian Dream, the Michigan Dream,
the Canadian Dream, son of a what was it?
Son of like a technical or system engineer technician or whatever.
Yeah, like just friggin' brilliant. Every week he's coming up with something that's just brilliant. Kevin Owens, he honestly, the fact that he's not going to win the championship against Cody Rhodes is almost criminal.
Honestly, I feel like if it was anybody but Cody that was the champ, he would win it. But the fact that they're telling this story with Cody, and whether it's with The Rock or Cena or Roman, we know Cody, it's predictable. That's probably the most predictable part about WWE right now.
Well, and it's kind of frustrating too because it's literally exactly where Kevin Owens was a year ago. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're Kevin Owens, 1 year ago at the Royal Rumble, you were challenging for the Universal Championship in a match that we all knew you were going to lose.
Yeah. Well, and was that the one where he handcuffed Reigns to the thing? Or anything?
Or no, maybe that was 2 years ago. Maybe that was 2 years ago.
Yeah. He like handcuffed Reigns to the thing, and Reigns, it was like a last man standing match, and Reigns couldn't answer the challenge, so they'd have Heyman unlock him or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a botch. But yeah, I mean, SmackDown just and like I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm just like I was underwhelmed when I watched it, and I'm somehow more underwhelmed reading these.
The best part of it was like the best part of the show in its entirety was the both the beginning segment and the end segment between Rey Mysterio and Kevin Owens. Like their match was great.
Yeah.
I'm still amazed that Ray at his age can go the way that he can. It's phenomenal, to be
Until
honest.
Kofi Kingston drops him on his back again. um,
and and like it's so great too because Ray's been doing it for so long that when he needs to look like a badass, he can look like a badass. And when he needs to be in that position where, like, he's so small. When Kevin was like, lining him up for the package pile driver, like you got the sense of fear that went through for Rey Mysterio is exactly what you're supposed to be feeling in that moment. Like, great job by everybody involved.
yeah, I mean,
I can't say the same about the Solo Sikoa segment. Can we talk about that now?
yeah. So Solo Sikoa comes out. He's gonna talk. He's got the mic, and the crowd's booing him so heavily that he and then throws the mic down, walks out the ring, takes his jacket off, goes over the barricade, and leaves. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Did you just like panic and forget? Like,
It,
and then Jacob picks up
it
the mic
makes
and
no
starts
sense.
talking about how things are going to be different. And, like, it's like, okay, is Jacob the new tribal chief challenger? Like, are you guys going to extend this way? Like,
Which I'd be down for.
I'd be down for it, but that feels like a lazy way to get there.
It does. Um, Jacob is okay. So I feel like Solo is in a rough position because, like, for months now, we've known like he's the guy who's being portrayed as like the front of the new bloodline. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
all know that the more talented, both in ring and on the stick, is Jacob Fatu.
Yep.
Like we're all sitting here chomping at the bit, waiting for Jacob Fatu to have these matches against guys like Gunther, against Roman Reigns,
Ron
against
Breaker.
Cody Rhodes. Braun Breaker would be a great one. Give me, we were talking about Sheamus. Give me Sheamus and Jacob Fatu. Like,
Forget who it was. Pen. I caught a match on YouTube earlier today where it was Penta versus Jacob Fatu. I want to say it was early AEW era of Penta where he was wearing the Joker stuff, and he was working an indie scene, and it was against Jacob Fatu. They killed it.
in I don't know how many of how familiar our viewers are with Penta, because he did have a good amount of time in AEW, but his stuff before AEW,
His stuff in
like
TNA,
that's the
Underground, AAA.
Lucha Underground stuff is insane.
The
Is
fact that he
absolutely
wrestled
insane.
Chelsea Green in Lucha Underground is insane. He wrestled against Kairi Sane and Io Sky down in Lucha Underground as well. Which
No,
those
let's
matches
not forget
really,
that
really good.
he faced off against Kenny Omega at All In.
Yep.
Like the
Yep.
and just to like point this out, that's a show that Kenny Omega helped book. Like he got to hand pick his opponent. He picked Penta to have
At that
an All
point,
Star.
Penta was one of the most overstars in the world. And that was actually the first time I think I'd gotten to see Rey Mysterio live in like over a decade.
Penta, you mean?
No, Rey Mysterio was in the 6-man with the Bucks later on that night.
Was he?
At All In.
He was. That's right.
He's wearing
I
the
had
Wolverine.
totally forgotten that. I had totally forgotten that he was at that show. But you're right.
I don't remember who they
Sorry,
were.
that was.
I have to go back and watch All In again. Remember when AEW stuff was quality?
That was ROH.
It has to be one of the biggest blunders of all time, like from a
All
business
time.
standpoint. Like in terms of wrestling,
In wrestling, the biggest one since the
since
invasion,
Japan,
I would say the
the Black
biggest
Sabbath.
blunder since the invasion.
Honestly, might be the biggest blunder since putting the world title on David Arquette.
I think the WCW WWE invasion is
That was a missed opportunity, in my opinion. I think that was Vince's ego booking there. I don't think it was.
all you. If you wait a year to do that storyline, it becomes a lot better.
Oh
Just
yeah,
wait a year.
I think they jumped
Anyway,
on it. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. But getting back to SmackDown, I mean, we got to see Tiffany versus Bailey. And Tiffany retaining helped build her into a bigger star. It'll be interesting to see who they pair her with um, into Mania season. My gut tells me it's going to be Charlotte or Becky.
I
Um,
mean, Charlotte makes sense just because she's the returning great
yeah,
legendary champion, and I even though it's not Vince in charge anymore, I still think Triple H, especially with his history with Flair, is going to make sure that Charlotte gets up to the number of championships she's supposed to.
yup. But yeah, SmackDown, I'd put it at like a B minus C plus. Action in the ring was great. There's some solid moments, but like there's nothing really to write home about. Honestly, I'd put it on par with maybe like AEW stuff this week in terms of like content, and that's kind of a low bar.
I mean, I still thought it was better than standard AEW just because you know, even though I don't necessarily like where the Solo Sokoa stuff went, I am still kind of intrigued by it a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, they've got to do something at this
Um,
point. Moving on to AEW. So Dynamite. You said you didn't get a chance to really watch it.
no,
I'm just going to touch on what I liked and what I didn't like, guys. I liked that Mox versus Hobbs was actually Mox got his ass beat the entire match. It took a lot of interference and a lot of weapons to really kind of like put Hobbs down for the count, and he didn't actually get pinned. He passed out, being choked with a chain. So like it really put Hobbs over as a monster, and I think is cementing him as a potential main event challenger down the line. So they did a good job there. That's like a bright spot on the Ku Klux Combat Club stuff. Tony Storm winning the women's gauntlet, I liked that. And then I was super excited to see Megan Bayne debut her AEW. She's been an indie talent I've been following for a while. If you haven't had a chance to check out her matches, go ahead. Um, Honestly, to highlight this casino gauntlet, big meaty women slapping meat, to quote Big E. Like there's a lot of brick houses just slugging and brawling. It was great.
very nice.
Very nice, very good. It's Tony time. Yeah, but Tony Storm picking up the win. It's gonna be really interesting to see how they bring back the history they showed, or whether Amnesiac Tony's not gonna remember any of it and just be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And like Mariah May's gonna break her with like
That
showing
would
her.
be hilarious. I would love that. Like she doesn't remember winning.
Yeah,
That'd be great. Do
yeah.
that. Do that.
Like she doesn't remember ever being the champion. That's like her whole thing, and like she pulls off the upset to beat Mariah May, or maybe it's all a ruse to get back at Mariah May. That'd be interesting too, because they've been
Nah, make it
Tony Storm.
legit. Make it legit. Don't let her remember anything ever.
Tony Storm might be the single biggest missed opportunity that WWE's had when it comes to women talent leaving them. Um, I'm sorry, I don't care about Mercedes Moné. Just
No, I 100% agree. Like
I care.
if I could just have the match I want at WrestleMania, it'd be Rhea Ripley and Tony Storm. To be honest.
Yeah, they've had classics against each other in NXT UK and like
I
NXT.
believe didn't they face off in the Mae Young Classic?
Yes, I believe so too. There's a lot. Honestly, probably should go back and rewatch that. There was a lot of really good matches in that. A lot of the current women's talent that are in WWE are there.
Yeah.
Kenny Omega versus Brian Cage. Honestly, Kenny Omega match. It was definitely TV Kenny. You got the classics. He did a good job selling his gut stuff, the diverticulitis surgery stuff. Brian Cage looked like a monster. So I'm really confused about the Ricochet booking here now. So like they're set Ricochet up as this like serial killer basically with like scissors. He like took out Swerve. Well, Swerve music plays. He gets hit by a chair by Prince Nana. and now they're having a match in 2.5 weeks on Dynamite in February. Make fucking sense, Tony. Do fucking better. Like, seriously, at this point, Tony, hire us. We'll come in, we'll fix your entire fucking ship. Because you're doing that shitty of a job that I'd be willing to take, a reasonable amount of money to do it. MJF and Jeff Jarrett. So I wasn't super intrigued in this feud at first. These two verbally going at it got me hooked. That said, I was really pissed off and kind of offended that, and I mean, maybe that's the reaction MJF was trying to go for, but like the fact that he accused Jeff Jarrett of riding Owen Hart's coattails and like milking his legacy to make a name for himself really kind of pissed me off. And it just left a bad taste in my mouth, not in a good way.
I said that, and I did see this segment on a YouTube replay. I said that, like, I thought it'd be really good if MJF blamed Jeff Jarrett for the death of Owen Hart. That I thought that would get really good heat for him.
That would have been fine. They took it
that and this is different because
I can't imagine Martha.
This way, it's invoking Owen Hart in a different way. Mm-hmm. Where now, like, you almost want to see Owen wrestle himself, and that can't be done, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine his wife would have let that statement either. Like, she's been super protective of Owen's legacy, and like, you have a tournament in your company that's named after the guy.
Well, I'll be honest. You said like the verbal sparring got you hooked. I wasn't as into this promo, and I think part of it was that it felt more scripted than an MJF promo normally does.
It did feel a little scripted at points, especially the Kurt Angle, Karen Jarrett stuff that he was mentioning, and like, they already did that in TNA. Like, lazy
so like, some of the barbs that MJF was firing didn't have the same sting that they normally do.
Yeah,
they almost seemed dull.
Yeah, it was just shock value. It was like one of those 4chan edgelords that just thinks like they're being edgy to be cool. And like,
yeah, that's a good analogy. That's a really good analogy.
Oh, it was cringe. It was cringe. That's the best way to put it. And I don't think it's not that I'm disinterested in this feud now. I want to see how it folds out, but it definitely has a sour taste in my mouth now.
Yeah, I think
MJF
both of these guys can do better. I think both these guys can do better than what they brought with this.
We've got Samoa Joe back. That's a good thing. He came back to help Hook against the patriarchy. Yeah.
But okay, hold on though. I gotta bring this up though. Isn't this just more of the same? Samoa Joe, Christian, pretty sure we've seen this one before.
Yep. 12, 15 years ago in TNA.
Mm-hmm.
And
don't get me wrong, I love the work that Christian's doing. I still think Joe can go. It's not that I'm not down for it. It's just, with the wide diversity of talent that's in AEW, there's other matches I'd like to see. I mean, frankly, they're both there. Could you, Tony, do me a favor and set me up a Kenny Omega Samoa Joe match, please, for the love of fucking Christ? I'll pay to see that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then we randomly got an announcement for Okada versus Ishii on Collision for the international title because, way to build up your talent or if New Japan talent, I don't even know if Ishii's under contract. And like, I don't know, it was a C, just a flat C, and a deflated C. Collision was actually slightly better in my opinion. The 12-man tag was a little chaotic. That's a little too much action going on for me to keep up with. But Hobbs looked like a beast in this match after he got attacked by Jericho earlier on in the evening backstage. Came back out, cleared house. It was great. Okada versus Ishii was actually super entertaining, and I had low expectations. Okada is such a fucking troll, and he's low blowing people now, and it's like what they should have did with Shinsuke Nakamura, like when he kicked AJ Styles in the testicles.
I'm going to bring that up later on tonight.
That's a perfect way to describe AEW right now.
Wow.
That's so
on
sad.
point. On point.
That's actually the opposite of what his comment was, if you think about it.
That's true. Just depressing.
Yeah, and then so something you and I both, being from the Kalamazoo area, we got a Texas death match, Hangman versus Christopher Daniels, Fallen Angel. Now, for those of you who don't know, Christopher Daniels, the Fallen Angel, this was effectively his last match. This was Texas death match, was great. I was really disappointed that it wasn't the main event. It's kind of like putting a Hell in a Cell not at the end of the the night, or not a Rumble at the end of the night. It was a great match, and Daniels is actually from Kalamazoo, Michigan, where Brian and I are from. So it's kind of good to see a local guy, even though he's retiring out there. And that's anytime I would see him at any events when he was doing the SCU stuff, and I'd be like, "You're from Michigan." And I'm not confident in Tony's ability to book a show at this point and get me invested in the stories, because this match was dead in the middle, and it was banger, but like the rest of the show was just mid. I mean, the Acclaimed breakup, they've been teasing it for weeks. I honestly thought it was going to happen at a pay-per-view a while back here, and now we've got Billy Gunn and Bowen still teaming up, with Max Caster's not teaming with them, but like they're basically still doing the same act, and I'm just make it make fucking sense.
Yeah.
Like I'm at the point where I
This is just more bad booking by Tony Khan, not understanding the value of your teams, not understanding the flow of a storyline, and how you need these like high points to hit at the bigger shows. Don't. That's shameful booking. I didn't know that happened.
I got pissed off thinking about. I saw something earlier, and I got to thinking about it. The only title that actually seems to have any relevance in AEW is the AEW World Championship. Beyond that, every other title is lost in the shuffle. The women's world title is far less important than the mid-card women's title, and the way it's being presented. We've got the ROH Championship. Jericho's the champion there, so that's getting a little bit of shine. But like, it's like a tier B title. The International Intercontinental, or the International, and the other mid card title, basically like they get all the teams, the trios, the tag teams, the ROH tag teams, all those titles basically are meaningless because he can't book his way out of a wet paper fucking bag with a knife and a condom. Like I'm at the point where I'm still gonna watch because I like doing this podcast. But if we weren't doing this podcast, I would not watch AEW. That's where I'm at with it. That's how shitty of a product you've made, Tony Khan. Shame on you. Do fucking better.
I was sick, so I had an excuse to not watch AEW this week. I think that says a lot right there.
Yeah, I kind of wish we could have traded places in that moment.
I'm sorry for that. Well, do you want to talk about our topic of the night? A lot more fun.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to talk a little bit about TNA Genesis if you're down for it.
I'm sorry. There is something that happens at TNA Genesis that we should talk about. Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, we got to see honestly all of the matches on the card were great. Jordan Grace versus TB, because I'm not going to name her because I don't want someone in my DMs being angry again because they got criticism that wasn't even directed at them. Yeah, they had a good match. The chant
Come
after
on. Wait, I'll say it. I'll say your name out loud because you know what? It's not even just you, man. You weren't at the show, and there were plenty of Tessa Blanchard as a racist chants coming from the entire audience. It wasn't just you.
I was making fun of the fact that actually happened. But yeah, the chants afterwards were hilarious. Obviously, this is Jordan Grace's swan song. She's heading to WWE, whether it's NXT or the main roster is yet to be seen.
I think it's got to be main roster.
It's got to be main roster, in my opinion, but they keep featuring her on NXT, so who knows? Santana and Josh Alexander had a great I Quit match. Alexander actually quit TNA afterwards, so we'll see if he's actually leaving. The Hardy Boys defeated the Rascals for the tag team titles, or to retain the tag titles. I think we're gonna get the Hardys at Mania. I think
There's a good chance of it.
I think we might get Ultimate X at Mania. Could you imagine the tag team championships in the Ultimate X?
In an Ultimate X match, that'd be kind of crazy.
But it'd be sick.
It would be sick. Definitely. Well, like doing things that haven't been done before. So.
Yeah. And then Joe Hendry defeated Nick Nemeth to become the new TNA World Champion. I mean, we got Kazarian and Ryan Nemeth trying to make interference. JBL clotheslining both of them and taking them out was a nice touch. Kind of a callback to JBL costing Hendry a while back here. I mean, I was excited to watch this show to begin with, but like it delivered on all fronts.
He appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
If he doesn't show up at the Royal Rumble, it is going to be the biggest missed opportunity in wrestling history. Forget everything else that's come before. Joe Hendry needs to be in the Royal Rumble. I swear to God, dude.
I was watching Busted Open earlier today, and Joe Hendry called out, instead of John Cena, as Santino Marella would call him, called out John Cena, said he wanted to work with him. That'd be really interesting.
Oh, my.
Could you imagine the match they'd have?
I think it'd be hilarious. Joe Hendry calling out John Cena. There's an opportunity right there. Have John Cena show up with Joe Hendry's music, say his name, and he appears. I believe in John Cena.
No, I think I found the loophole. How we can get John Cena his 17th world title.
Oh, that's a crafty one. That's a crafty one, son. And oh God, see now that's a WrestleMania match I would want to see. That's a we talked about how we didn't want to see John Cena in a title match at Mania, but Joe Hendry versus John Cena for the TNA title at WrestleMania. Now that
Cena could win that, carry the title for a little bit, drop it back to Henry or someone else at TNA. It gives TNA a huge bump in terms of credibility too.
Yeah, and that's exactly the kind of
recognize it as his 17th world title.
And that's exactly the kind of rub that TNA needs to get off of this partnership. Is they need that kind of bump.
So and that's the thing actually. It's kind of not to go too far into the topic, but WWE has already done far more promoting this to build this than I really recall AEW doing in their partnership with TNA. We'd see them pop up on TNA programming. We'd see them pop up on, they'd mention it or say, hey, so-and-so is going to be in a match. I don't recall any TNA talent ever going over in that match. I don't. At all. The first match we have is, Ashante the Adonis calling out an open challenge at someone in TNA, and then losing to Jake something. That tells you where we're at in terms of this. But if John Cena could go, imagine John Cena versus Joe Hendry at WrestleMania weekend. Cena goes over. Henry looks like a beast in the defense, drops the title. Cena gets his 17th championship, has a decent run, shows up on Impact Wrestling, drops it to, I'm blanking on the guy's name, who's like, not Kazarian. I'm blanking on his name, but like, drops it to one of their top guys, Moose. It could even be Moose.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd be down with watching Cena versus Moose.
Like,
That'd be entertaining.
The possibilities here are kind of endless once you think about it. And like, I think I might have solved this problem for the WWE, and they don't have to give up equity with their other champions.
That would be amazing. I would 1,000% be down with that, and it'd be a very unique way to not only get Cena his additional world title that he needs, but you don't have to corrupt any of the current storylines in WD, but in WWE, you can still do it on a big stage. Man, that's an awesome idea. 10 stars.
They called me the Booker Man. All right, on to our topic of the week, guys. Brian and I both have our top 5 favorite Royal Rumbles and top 5 favorite Royal Rumble moments. And we're going to alternate. Brian, I'm going to go ahead and let you go first.
Okay, well, quick question. Which one are we starting with? Are we starting with favorite Royal Rumbles or favorite Royal Rumble moment? Rumbles? Okay, well, then I have to start with my all-time favorite Royal Rumble because this one's getting on the books first. 1992. Woo! Ric Flair walks away as the winner of the Royal Rumble, coming in at number 3. Didn't last the entire match, but he lasted damn near the entire match. I got my name right here. I am a Bobby the Brain guy because to me, one of the things that made that Rumble so incredible wasn't just what Ric Flair was doing in the ring. It was the commentary that Bobby the Brain was giving about Ric Flair. You know, constantly, this isn't fair to Flair. I need to go down there. Flair needs my help. That added like another level to the entire storytelling of that Royal Rumble match. By far my favorite Rumble, an absolute classic. Boom.
Yeah, so that was my second one. I felt like me being the Flair guy, known as the Flair guy, that would be a little too on the nose. So that was my second pick. So I'll go with my first pick. Number 1 for me is 1997. Stone Cold Steve Austin stealing the Royal Rumble from Bret Hart in one of the most iconic ways. Austin getting eliminated, nobody catching it, sneaking back into the ring later on, eliminating Taker and Vader, and then tossing Hart out of the ring. It was money, and it led to the Attitude Era as we know it.
That's the very first Stone Cold Steve Austin Rumble win.
Yep, he won the next
3
year, 2 years later.
Yep, that's a really good one. That's a good one, and I think that one is also special in a different way because that's the last Rumble before the screw job, the Montreal screw job. And wrestling changed after the screw job. Like there's a definite feeling of before and after that moment.
I definitely agree with you. I definitely think wrestling changed. I think the fan became far more informed of what was actually going on. The curtain call definitely ruined the suspension of disbelief for a lot of people, but I'd argue that the screw job ruined it for almost everybody. And I think it not that it set wrestling back, but it kind of did. Because you're supposed to have a suspension of disbelief when you come into a wrestling show. You're accepting it at its face value just to be entertained. Obviously, it's not like, there's kayfabe. But like, you don't realize that there's politics going on between these guys until things like this happens. And for the smarks at the time who were in the know kind of knew, but I also noticed that's kind of when the dirt sheets started to take off a lot more. Like they were always kind of prevalent with the PWI and stuff, but like I noticed a lot more reports and leaks back then.
Yeah, that's that's definitely for sure.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to my next Royal Rumble. And it's funny because you're like talking about how like sometimes it's predictable, like how it's gonna go. And I gotta be honest, this was a predictable Royal Rumble, and I don't give a damn. 2002, Triple H walking away with the victory after coming back from his torn quad, going on to face and man, the Chris Jericho Triple H like
The feud was
that
good.
build up and everything was tremendously underwhelming and disappointing. However, the Rumble itself, um, Austin was in there, Rock was in there, Taker was in there.
Star-studded.
That's also the infamous Rumble where Maven drop kick Taker over the top rope, which is just a classic Royal Rumble moment. So that one is going on my dance card at number 2, 2002.
That's a good one. I actually enjoyed the build that Jericho and Triple H had during the lead into WrestleMania. I just think that, like, if I remember correctly, that was Goldberg versus Lesnar as the other one. That's 20, wasn't it?
No, Goldberg and Lesnar was at 20.
Yeah, which they were the main event. Or was it
No,
Kurt Angle and Lesnar?
That's 2000. That's 2004.
Okay, I'm blanking. But like, yeah, there was another main event that was it's Austin Rock. Or not Austin Rock, Hogan. That was
Rock
the other
Hogan. Match. That was the other match. Yeah, because that's the match. That's the match that should have gone on last, and didn't. That was a bit of a blunder.
Yeah. Well, I think Vince underestimated people's reaction to Hogan coming back to Mania, his first one back in quite some years. And I don't think they expected the reaction that The Rock got either. I don't think they expected people to boo The Rock and to cheer Hogan. And I mean, we saw the double turn in the ring. We saw them feed off the crowd, and it delivered an iconic WrestleMania moment, a passing of the torch, if you will. It's a shame that The Rock really never gave it up, but sorry, John Cena versus him was just like, they should have did it sooner. Number 2 for me. So, I wasn't actually alive for this one, funny enough. It was 8 months before I was born. I actually learned to appreciate this one over the year. The very first inaugural Royal Rumble won by Mr. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, winning the inaugural Royal Rumble in 1988. This Rumble happened in January of 1988. I was born in November of 1988. I have become a fan of this Rumble just because without it, we don't have what we have today. And what's funny is of the Rumbles, this is one of the least star-studded ones, but the action involved in the ring, the pacing, the storytelling, the commentary just all brought it together in a very nice, tight package. It was great.
The first Royal Rumble is so unique too because with all the preceding ones they had kind of a blueprint of what to work off of. But with that first one, and I know like we've actually heard Hacksaw himself talk about this. They were kind of going out there going, we're gonna see what works.
Well, they didn't know what was going to get a reaction, what wasn't. And it's funny, like looking at the preceding one, which is won by Big John Studd, that one was underwhelming by a lot of people's expectations. It didn't start gaining steam until Hogan won the following year. Fuck Hulk Hogan.
Fuck Hulk Hogan. And his 2 Royal Rumble wins that don't make the list.
Johnny won 3.
Was it 3? I thought it was only 2. Hold on, I got the list here. I can look it up here. Hulk Hogan won the Royal Rumble in 90 and 91. And that's it, just 2.
Okay, I was thinking of a different Rumble winner. Yeah, I mean, well, you can't really beat the blueprint.
All right, moving on to my next Royal Rumble that I thought was absolutely wonderful. 2006, the Royal Rumble was won by our favorite luchador, Mr. Rey Mysterio, winning the Royal Rumble as a tribute to Eddie Guerrero, going on to main event WrestleMania. Um, as far as Rumbles that have like an emotional stake in them,
It definitely had that. I definitely agree, especially because Ray entered fairly early, if I recall.
Ray entered at number 2. He was the first. Uh, sorry, he was the second wrestler to go bell to bell. Shawn
Yeah.
Michaels being the first.
So I was watching this emotionally invested, obviously, at the time. There's an iconic shot where it's Ray staring down Mark Henry, I think Big Show, and what's his name? The guy. The Great Khali.
Great
You
Khali.
know you're getting old, folks, when you're forgetting mid Carters and one-time world champions from the 2000s. There's an iconic shot of
Great Khali
that.
doesn't even work Great Khali anymore.
So my biggest problem with this Rumble when I watch it back is that I didn't think it was predictable when I watched it the first time, but like watching the build and watching like the Rumble, it was very predictable. And I think that's kind of what ruins a little bit of the suspension of disbelief there. I definitely understand why you would like it. It had great action. It had some surprising moments. But yeah, for me, this one, I'd probably put this one at number 7 for me.
Okay.
Um, Shawn winning the Rumble from number 1 in 1995.
That's a good one.
Him and British Bulldog, that final sequence where Shawn,
Hmm.
the Bulldog thinks he won. His music hits a little bit, but all of a sudden you see it's only one of Shawn's feet. He's holding himself up, and then he pulls himself back in. Double axe hand. Bulldog, I don't know what happened there, but he like stumbled out of the ring, eliminating himself. But I mean, the new generation struggled, and this was when the turning point kind of happened there, where we saw the birth of Shawn Michaels and like him being the top guy for a few years, and he won the following year in '96 as well. Which that's what led into, I believe, him versus Brett as a major feud.
The Shawn Michaels, yeah, Shawn Michaels winning this Royal Rumble, I definitely think was huge for him because this was where he kind of stepped up to that next level
Yeah,
with this Rumble. So that's a great choice, man. Great choice.
and it wasn't the emotional investment in that one, but like you could tell it was a changing of the guard. Because beforehand it was all big dudes. Sean's not a big dude. Sean's probably my size. I probably would, when Sean was at his heaviest, I probably weigh a little more than him.
Yeah. All right, I've got a surprise. I got one that I think is going to surprise you as my next one.
Okay.
At number 4 from 2018, I'm calling the Women's Royal Rumble with Asuka victorious. And it was Asuka winning this that like was ultimately the reason that I decided to put this on my list because Asuka had kind of gotten to a position where I didn't feel like she was being respected in
Mm-hmm.
WWE the same way that she had been in NXT. You know, when Asuka was in NXT, she was a fucking monster. You know, just an absolute destroyer. And then
Mm-hmm.
she got up to the main roster, and like they kept her undefeated for a little while. But as soon as she came up against Charlotte Flair, it was just like, oh, yep, you're not really good enough. Haha, this is all just for Charlotte. And
Yep. That's exactly how
it
that
was
came
frustrating.
across.
It was very frustrating. And
That
um
I think that was the same year Shinsuke won
um
because
I
they
can
both
look here.
lost at Mania.
Yes, you are correct. Shinsuke
Yeah, because that's where
was
Shinsuke nailed AJ in the balls at WrestleMania.
yeah. And See, the thing is like the Shins. I was really happy to see Shinsuke win too. Like both winners that year, I was happy with
Yeah,
who won.
he didn't do
But
anything.
the difference is the difference is like Shinsuke winning. I still never thought he was going to win the world title.
Asuka, I
You
think
know?
we all thought she was going to. It
Yeah.
made sense. It just, and everybody was so bored with Charlotte's reigns during that time period that like there was a desperate need for change, and then they just don't pull the trigger. And I mean, I guess that's kind of a causality of the late Vince era from like 2014 to 2019, where like it's kind of like whose line is it anyway? Welcome to WWE, where the rules don't matter and the matches don't count.
Yeah.
Like, it just seemed like he's making it up as he's going along, unless you're one of his favorites.
Yeah. Pretty much. And I think that booking of Asuka winning had a lot to do with Triple H. Like that felt to
Yeah.
me like one of the first big decisions Triple H got to make about the main roster, and I thought it was a big one and an important one, and it was definitely the happiest I've been with a women's Royal Rumble since. So
Well, since we already have the same one-on-one, I don't have a number 4, so I'll just skip to my number 5. 1999.
well, to be fair, that was my number 5. So go ahead and let's talk about it because this one
Man
was special.
Royal Rumble with his big, sweaty melons. His grapefruits. Vince winning the Royal Rumble, starting from number 2. Austin and him had that heated rivalry going on.
And let's not forget, Austin was number 1.
Yep. And they beat the hell out of each other. Like I was genuinely surprised with how much offense McMahon was getting in some parts of that match. The whole pay-per-view was actually honestly was really good. This was probably peak Attitude Era. Like this was like Mr. McMahon's at his evilest. Pre-do-rag Vince, obviously. Um,
Well, I
The
don't.
Rock,
Yeah, I don't know if maybe
Mankind,
evilest, but it definitely the McMahon Austin feud definitely fueled this Rumble.
Well, yeah. Well, and the Rock Mankind main event where the Rock beat Mankind to become champion again. This was once WWE started winning the ratings wars again. Actually, this was the first because if I recall, Mankind won the title like 2 or 3 months before that. Because it was the whole thing where it was pre-taped and got spoiled by Bischoff and Tony Schiavone on WCW. Just the
That was
overall.
about a month or so before.
Yeah, it
I
wasn't
believe
very
that
long.
happened in December.
Every time
Yeah.
Mankind or Mick Foley won the title, he didn't hold it for very long because the money was in the chase with him. Always was in the chase.
hmm
But I'll never forget that chair shot, cracking him right across the skull. He got, and they went over this in that documentary Beyond the Mat, where like he legit got his ass beat and was concussed and did not know where he was. So
The other spot in that match that because everybody talks about the chair shots because he was handcuffed, but there's the spot in that match where he flat backs on top of 2 like electrical
he got burned
things and got burned, and one of them tipped to the side and he hurt his back
Yeah, well, and
pretty
I think
severely in that match.
and I love Mick Foley. I've met Mick Foley several times. He is just one of the most genuinely nice people. I definitely think his style of wrestling definitely shortened his career. Some people. I remember TNA when Foley was there and he was the authority figure feuding with Flair. Flair was accusing his character of being the reason why people were out there doing dumb things and why backyard wrestling was a thing and like all this stuff. And like, I think they turned a lot of that real life criticism into gold for them to fuel that feud. It wasn't completely invalid. I don't have anybody that can get in the ring and bump. I have tremendous respect for. The backyard stuff I've never been a big fan of. I've always thought it was just needless. Especially jumping off of roofs onto like fan blades and light tubes and stuff like that. And then with no medical training or around, no medical trainers around you or anything. I've always felt was kind of like should you? But it speaks tremendously about like how WWE perceived Mick in the main event. And I mean, if I recall correctly, wasn't the Mania after this where we had the Fatal 4-Way? WrestleMania 2000, where
It
it
was
was
WrestleMania
Mankind,
2000 where we got it was the
Triple H.
following year.
Okay.
Because what happened? Because the following year was the controversy was whether The Rock or The Big Show won.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because that was WrestleMania 15, so that would have been Austin Rock in the main event, wouldn't it? Yeah, it was Austin Rock in the main event. We had yeah, that was the first. No, because they were 13, 15, and 7. No. Were they 13, 15, and 17 or 15, 17, 19? I think it's 15, 17, 19.
15, 17, 19.
Yeah, because that was also, we saw Hell in a Cell matches and, a lot of that Mania is actually one of my favorite Manias of all time too. Because just end to end, it was action. Nothing felt out of place. Honestly, Rock Austin just might be one of the best feuds of all time. But like, it fueled a lot of the other stuff going on around it too. It's almost like they built a whole show and a whole big year around a big storyline and had other small storylines to help kind of like prop it up.
It's crazy how that works when it works.
God, do it, Tony.
So those are our favorite Royal Rumbles, but we both also got some of our favorite Royal Rumble moments. Some of those just classic quintessential moments that happened over the years. I got to start off with my Royal Rumbles. Evan, why don't you go ahead and start us off with one of your favorite
I'm going to
moments?
start off. I'm going to start off big. I'm going to start off with "You Can't See Me." 2008, John Cena's return in New York City. That is one of the loudest pops I've seen at an event to this date. Nobody really suspected John coming back so quickly from that injury and from that surgery, because that typically would have been out of action another like 3 to 4 months at least.
Yeah, he should have been out for at least another 3 months.
Yeah, just overall the selling that Triple H and the other competitors that are left in the ring do. That's the greatest Royal Rumble moment in my mind, just because of the sheer surprise value. There's another one on here that is a surprise, is a legit surprise. We'll see if we have crossover.
Okay. Well, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was done. I was waiting for you to go with your one.
Oh, okay. Well, my first one is going to come from the 2010 Royal Rumble, and it is my favorite moment in any Royal Rumble. I'm a huge fan of heels. You know me, I'm a huge fan of heels, and CM Punk's Sermon on the Mount will always be one of my favorite moments in professional wrestling. CM Punk eliminates everybody else in the Royal Rumble at the time, grabs a mic, and begins to run down the audience. Wrestler comes out, he throws him out, continues to run down the audience. Like, there is heel work and then there's heel work.
Mm-hmm.
That was top notch heel work.
That was top notch. I mean, I definitely, that was probably number 6 for me on my list. Number 6, 7. There's this one. I love a good surprise. 2020, the rated R superstar Edge comes back to WWE after, what was it, 9 years of retirement. I mean, nobody outside of the WWE brass and people back there knew. Like, I didn't expect it. You didn't expect it. Like, we were all caught off guard. I legit popped and got up out of my seat, was cheering at home, watching Mania.
Number 1, wasn't he?
No, I think he was 21 or 20. He was further along in the match. I think that is the one he won though.
Edge won from number 1. I'm gonna look this up. In 2021, Edge entering at number 1 wins the Royal Rumble. Yep.
2020, he entered at number 21.
Oh, okay.
He won the following Royal Rumble.
And that one he entered at number 1. Okay, that's my mistake.
Sorry, guys. We like to check our facts when we're not sure. We'll do it live. We don't care.
We do not care. But as long as we're talking about that 2020 Royal Rumble, that one actually has one of my moments in it. And it is the moment that Drew McIntyre eliminated Brock Lesnar from the Rumble. Wow. That Rumble was so cool because it had a different feel than any other Rumble in history. Like Lesnar just rolling through competitor after competitor. And when Drew gave him that kick and he went over the top rope, you knew right then, like, this is going to be special.
So the unique thing about that, and that was one that almost made it on my list, is Drew getting set up for that kick was preceded by Ricochet hitting Lesnar with a low blow. And they never did anything with that. And you'd think a man like Brock Lesnar would have came back for a seat on a low blow. But yeah, that Rumble has a unique thing because I believe that was pre-pandemic. That was the last Rumble pre-pandemic. Because that was the year that Drew went on to main event WrestleMania.
Yes, you're correct.
Where there was no one there.
The following year was in the Thunderdome.
Then he beat Big Show in his first title defense with no one there. And Drew finally got his moment in this last Mania, but Drew carried the WWE during that era, and honestly, he's carried WWE for a while now.
The work he's doing still is phenomenal. I mean,
oh yeah, like the social media work, the heel work, like he's just downright savage, and like it's mind blowing how good he is at it. All right, so since you revealed yours, I'll go on to my next one. 2005. In a very odd ending, we see Batista and John Cena go over the top rope together due to a botch by Batista.
No, so I gotta wait, hold on. Quick question. Is your moment when they both hit the floor at the same time, or is your moment when Vince McMahon comes out and blows out both his quads at the same time?
That one.
Okay, I just had to know.
Nobody knew. Like, John and Batista were clueless. The refs were clueless. They were all arguing, and it was weird and it was unique, and it clearly wasn't meant to happen. So they restart the match after Vince comes out, walking down. He gets into the ring and just blows his quads out. Everybody's just sitting there like, why is he sitting? Why isn't he standing? Well, there's a reason. He can't stand. And what was it? I believe Edge saw him. Because Edge was the one eliminated, right? He was the second to last guy. He saw Vince getting loaded onto the ambulance, and Vince was just like, "Argh." It blows my mind that could happen. That was really just a series of really unfortunate fucking events.
I think it's a big fucking missed opportunity, to be honest. If you go back, hold on, I want to make sure I got the year right here. 1994, Lex Luger and Bret Hart pulled this angle where they both got eliminated at the same time, and they made a big, that was the angle going into WrestleMania, where Lex Luger faced Yokozuna at the beginning of the show, and then Bret faced him at the end.
Yeah, but the thing is the reason they probably didn't is because that was so poorly received. Literally, it was so confusing to the audience. Nobody understood what was going on. It would have made more sense to just have them do a one-on-one match at the next pay-per-view, and then the winner go on.
You could have done that. But also the big difference at the point where you have Cena and Batista is at that point you have the brand split already.
Mm-hmm.
Let them both go after a title.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of ever since they've done the brand split, I've never completely understood why that just isn't the case. In some years they've done it, but in my opinion, I'm just okay, well then whoever gets whoever gets eliminated last can then go after the other world title.
Yeah. Like if I'm the last one for my brand, I get to
Yeah.
go after my brand's belt because the other guy, the other brand won.
During that era because it was brand heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that
makes
was a
sense.
great one in my opinion. So that's my number 3. What's your number 3?
So I don't know. I don't know if this one counts, but I'm going with it. I don't care because it's not just the Royal Rumble. It was the greatest Royal Rumble.
Is it Titus World Slide?
It was Titus World Slide!
I'll allow it. To quote Judge Mills Lane, I'll allow it. I love Titus. He's a
and quick shout out, friends of the show, the Whip Show podcast. They're actually going to be having Titus O'Neil on their show next week, so go check them out.
No. You let them know who your name is.
Yeah. Ask constantly. And tell them we sent you. But yeah, no, Titus, that's one of those moments that could be embarrassing enough to completely end your career. And
he took it like
dude's a boss. He just owned it. He just owned the hell out of it. And I appreciate him all the more for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Titus actually, dead serious. I remember when Titus was on NXT, back before the Nexus,
and
it was all like a competition show and stuff.
Yeah,
and he was my pick. Titus O'Neil was my pick to win that whole thing.
Yeah, no, he was definitely one of the people I thought could make it, and I think had he been given slightly better opportunities earlier on in his career probably would have been a little different. Primetime Players is actually really entertaining. I'll never forget. I can't unsee it, but like Derek Young, when him and John Cena were like trading verbal bars, and just I can't unsee it. The fact that like he's like I need to ask my mom what she's been up to. And like just I think about like their time as primetime players, and like Titus has done so much good work as an ambassador, and like I believe he just recently came out with a book talking about fatherhood and like his journey through it, and like he does a lot of work in the Florida region in particular. Titus is just a great human being, and he took that like a champ. Like you said, most people that might have ended their career, they would have gotten laughed out of the building. He just embraced it. Honestly, I probably would have bring him back every once in a while to just try to recreate that at a Rumble, just to pop some people. My number 4, 2007, Undertaker wins the Royal Rumble to go on to challenge Dave Bautista at WrestleMania. Him versus Shawn in the final 2. The back and forth. Except if I remember correctly, I believe they were 1 and 2 that year. Or no, he won 30th. Shawn was earlier on in the match. Taker entered at 30th. He was the first person to win from 30. Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that whole era set up the PG era as we knew it. It set up SmackDown really well because Taker became known as the SmackDown guy then, because he beat Dave, and then Dave and him had a really great feud, and then Taker had a great feud with Edge, and Batista and Edge had a feud that was really, really good after Taker got injured. And his feud with Mark Henry during that era too was just great. Honestly, like I think that really helped bridge the gap between the ruthless aggression to the PG era, and it was kind of like a turning point.
Well, it was also a return of the Dead Man.
Yeah,
when he won that Rumble,
because
he had done the whole like big evil gimmick, American Badass gimmick, and that was finally the return of the Dead Man. Yeah.
Yeah, and
so I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Man.
It's
I really think we should.
I almost put Titus World Slide on here, but I was like, I don't know if that'll count.
Oh, that yeah. See, I wasn't sure, but I was like, I'm gonna put it on there because, like, when I think back to like those moments that like just were like great Royal Rumble moments, that one makes the list, even though that wasn't a. That one's. I think the part that makes that one hard is because it wasn't a regular Royal Rumble. Like it wasn't. The Royal Rumble is supposed to be a
Oh, you're
once a
right.
year event,
Yeah. Well, didn't
and
Braun Strowman win that Royal Rumble and like has been champion of that for like
yeah,
6 years?
he won the Rumble, and they gave him a belt, and it doesn't mean anything. And it's the same thing as like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Like, cool to say you won it, but in reality, wasn't it just an excuse to get you on the card?
Yeah, that's really what it was. My final one, and it's one of my favorite moments. R-Truth busting out the ladder in the middle of the Royal Rumble.
Oh my god! I'm
That dude is the funniest dude I think I've ever seen in wrestling. Like he gets it. He gets comedy wrestling, and it's funny because he can actually go in the ring and like he's a former NWA champion. And, like I would love to interview Ron. If you're ever out there, Ron, you want to come on the pod, I would love to interview you, hear all about your time in wrestling from the time in the early '90s all the way through. Your rap career, wrestling, TNA, so much.
no, I have this written down. I have one more moment written down. To be clear, I just don't have the year that it took place. So
The year doesn't matter in this.
Drew Carey eliminating himself from the Royal Rumble because of Kane. Out of pure fear of Kane, I thought that was fucking hilarious.
I believe that was
Okay.
98. I believe that was
Was it
98.
98? I knew it was in the ads there, but I thought it could have been like 2000, 2001. I really wasn't sure. But
2001. 2001. Yeah, it was 2001.
hey,
I always confuse the 98 and 2001 Rumbles, probably because they had the same winner.
they do that, you know. Austin
Yeah,
just keeps coming back and winning. But I don't think he's going to win this year.
you never
My money's
know.
my money's on CM Punk, man.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, I think it'd be Punk or Cena.
Punk or
I don't
Cena.
think I don't think Roman Reigns needs it at this point. Like he's gonna wind up in the
I don't even know if it's the right decision to put Roman in a title match at WrestleMania. I think
honestly, I think he needs to be away from the title scene for a little bit to rework some other people to help give rubs in other places. That sounds kind of dirty when I say that out loud, Giggy.
with with the place that we're at with the Bloodline story, I almost think that the right decision is to book to Roman versus Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania. I
Yeah, no,
think
I
that
think
might
Jacob
be
should go
the
over.
best storyline and best match quality that you can get out of it at this point.
I think so too, and I agree. And I mean, I know we did a WrestleMania prediction build a few weeks ago, but it's going to be interesting to see how that compares to what happens at Mania. As we get closer, I might be open to let's revisit what our predictions were to see where we're at. To see what
I'd be down for that because and I think part of the reason I'm really down for that is because when we did that prediction video, we both said several times um,
it
it
all
was
depends on The
so
Rock.
dependent on The Rock, and now we have I wouldn't say all the answers in that regard, but we have more of an idea to build upon. So maybe we'll do that in the future.
Yeah.
That'd be a good time.
As always, guys, let us know what your favorite Royal Rumble moments are in the comments on YouTube and on Facebook. Let us know what your favorite Royal Rumbles were. We're happy to discuss. I'm thinking next week, Brian, we might bring back the challenge where we ask our audience to come on and to tell them, tell what they love about professional wrestling, to put themselves out there, to get themselves over. What do you think?
I'm down with having some people on the show. I'm down with answering your guys' questions. So if you have questions that you'd like us to answer, make sure to hit us up. Drop the questions down in the comments section. And yeah, I'm hyped, man. We're on the road to WrestleMania. This is my favorite time of year.
And unfortunately, we're also on the road to AEW bad programming. Also, let us know if you don't want to hear AEW programming because that'll save us a lot of time with bad TV. As always, make sure you go to enforcechew.com. Enter the code SOG24 for your 24% off. I guess we need to talk to them because it should be 25 now, shouldn't it?
Damn right. We need that money. We need that revenue, and that revenue is going to get you HARD. See, I brought it back around.
You went for the reach around. As always, signing off. This is Evan. Talk to you guys later.
Good night, everybody.